Corresponding and same side interior angles. We are moving right along in this geometry unit. Like we've done the last few assignments, let's do a little mini lesson and teach some vocabulary. The last few assignments we have learned complementary and supplementary angles, vertical and adjacent angles, alternate interior and alternate exterior angles, and now we're going to talk about corresponding and same side interior angles. And for this, let's create the little diagram like we had before, but I'm going to separate that transversal in a different color now so you can really see what's going on. Reminder that this is a transversal. And that our lines here, sometimes they don't have the marks, but really they're always parallel and should have these arrows, even if they don't. It's probably just difficult to code for the programmer making some of these problems. All right. Now, last time we learned about, like, if I was to draw angles, let's use orange, sure, 1 and 2. So these angles were alternate exterior angles because they alternated one on top and one on bottom of our red transversal, and they were on the exterior or the outside of these parallel lines. We also learned these were congruent. Well, in the same way, we learned about alternate interior angles. If you have 1 and 2 on the interior of these parallel lines, and one's on bottom and one's on top, these are alternate interior. Well, maybe you thought last time, okay, but what about if you have a situation where you have like an angle out here on the exterior and then an angle here on the interior where they're basically seeming like the same angle. This is an acute angle on the exterior, and this is an acute angle on the exterior. I could draw marks there to make them seem like they're the same. Are they the same? And the answer would be yes. These are what's known as corresponding angles. And this is where you got to put your cringe hat on, because I'm about to go full cringe teacher mode here. Here's a way that you can memorize this. Oh, I could just hear the cringy voices of my students when I explained it this year. If you have these two angles and they're corresponding to each other, they're not like siblings when they're on the other sides of the wall. No, these are far apart angles. These are socially distancing, probably in a different house angles. And they want to correspond. They want to chat. They want a video conference, FaceTime, whatever. Well, to memorize that these two angles are corresponding, you could think about how this angle, here we go, wants to just slide into the DMs of this other angle. That's right. Slide into the DMs. And yep, I said it twice. If it's on one side of the angle, in this case, on one side of the transversal, in this case the bottom, and it slides over on the bottom and remains the other angle, that's corresponding. In the same way, if I have an angle right here, and it slides over to where you see the same angle over here, these are corresponding angles as well. And I could draw, similarly, pairs here and here, here and here, as long as they're both on top, both on bottom, and they just slide over until you see the same angle on a different spot. All right, corresponding angles. And they, like our alternate interior and our alternate exterior and our vertical, are congruent. Almost wrote corresponding again. Congruent. Sometimes it's tough to talk and write at the same time. It really is. Okay. So that's that situation. You might have also been thinking, let's just draw a fresh batch here. You might have also thought last time, all right, well, that covers interior angles, that covers exterior angles. But what about the situation where they're both on the interior and they're both on the same side? Like in this case, they're both on the interior angles and they're on the bottom of our transversal. So these are same side interior angles. And you can think the same thing with the exterior, but we're just going to cover interior right now. These do not look like the same angle. This here is an obtuse angle. It's greater than 90. This one here is an acute angle. It's smaller than 90. Well, it turns out that they are not congruent. It's true. Unlike many of the other pairs, they're not. But these angles are supplementary, which again means twice as many p's from complementary gives you twice as many degrees, and they add to 180 degrees. So we're going to use that to do some SADME algebra later, like we've been doing. But just remember, everything for the most part is congruent, except for complementary angles add to 90, supplementary angles add to 180, same side interior angles are supplementary. Most other things are congruent to each other. All right, let's dive in. Corresponding and same side interior angles. First situation is the cringe level is at the max here. Once again, you have an angle and it stays on the right side of this transversal and slides down until you see the same exact angle, 118 again. This time it's on the interior compared to the exterior angle, but both are still on the right. So anytime it slides into the others, I'm not going to say it again, corresponding. I could hear you shrieking out there, "Stop it! You're so old, never say that again." Number two, just like we had before with alternate interior and exterior, one was an example of one of them, two is an example of the other one. So you can see these are not congruent. These are the two that add to 180, 62 and 118. I could prove that over here if you don't believe me. Adds to 180, so they're supplementary. They are both on the right side of the transversal, and they are on the interior. So these are same side interior angles. And once again, we have a situation where we have an angle on the outside, the exterior of our parallel lines. It's on the bottom of our transversal. And then it just slides over and is the same angle. And if we slide, we are corresponding. You're never going to look at that the same way again. You win. What do I win? The cringy sounds from all of my students. And 4, it's one more example where we've got the letter instead of a number, but they're on the right side, both on the interior, same side interior. Half of our assignments is just vocabulary. Then we do a little bit more vocabulary to remind ourselves before we do our SADME algebra problems that these sliding angles that are corresponding are also the same, which means they're congruent. But that is not true of our same side interior angles because, again, just like we've gone over multiple times already, these two angles do not match in terms of their degrees. Instead, they add to 180, which makes them supplementary because they are same side interior angles. And that's going to come in handy when we do our algebra, because a common mistake is that students try and make both of these situations congruent when they're not, and then they'll miss number 8. So I'm going to do what I did the last couple assignments with this, and I'm going to zoom out so that I can see both problems, and then I'm going to make this a little larger so I have space to write. I'm just going to write out both of them at once so that I don't have to close my writing to use the calculator. I'm just going to have to use my mental calculator. As with most of these problems, you're not going to get any decimals, so I should be able to do this in my head. But I still am going to write this out even as the teacher. Let's do this backwards. So I recommend you do the same. 7x plus 48 equals 97. SADME. We got to first subtract and add, then divide and multiply, finally do exponents. Always the opposite, always to both sides. As has been our common theme in most of these, we have to subtract. I don't know why they don't give us many division to multiplication examples. 97 minus 48 is 49. Ooh, it's a perfect square because 7 times 7 is 49. So x is 7. which again I always just write 7. Never type in the x equals part. All right, and then I can do the same thing here, only wait a minute. I have to remember that these are not congruent. That's right. They're same side interior. So instead of being congruent, we're going to do what we've done with the complementary and supplementary angles already. And we are going to combine like terms. So my positive 84 and my positive 36 in green, that combines to positive 120. So I've got my 5x still. I only have one of them, so it's just 5x. But then in green, I'm going to keep it positive 120. And that adds to 180 because they're same side interior. So that is how you set up number 8. Do not set them equal to each other because they're not congruent. Instead, combine like terms and add them to 180. When you do, then we can do our steps here of sad mean, which is so much of subtraction and division, it ain't even funny, and I get 12. So pause your video right now if you're still working on these to make sure that you can set your two angles equal to each other on number 7, and you could add them with like terms on number 8. As always, make sure you use your numbers, not mine. If you just copy in my answers, you're going to have to redo them because you're going to get it wrong. Closing this now in 3, 2, 1, go. So 7 and 12. Okay. And that was corresponding and same side interior angles. Let's get that 100% so we can see it beautifully there. All in green. Thank you for putting up with my dad level teacher cringe today. Hopefully that helps you horrifyingly always remember what corresponding angles are. As always, I hope this finds you happy, healthy, safe, and well. And until next time, I promise, less cringe then. This has been your teacher, Dylan. Goodbye.